Wonderful. So welcome to the Better B2B Guide is what I call it, Start with the Humans, my webinar on elevating your B2B content. Now, I know we have about 30 minutes to go, but really I feel like this slide says it all. Successful B2B content isn't about your business speaking to another business. It's about you speaking to another human about the things they care about at work. So, it's not businesses that make purchasing decisions, it's humans, and it's them you want to reach. So let's talk a little bit about how you can do that and how Ceros can make it easier for you to do that. So first things first, some of you may be wondering, who is this chick? What does she know about the type of content I need to create? I'm Daisy, and I'm a senior content strategist here at Ceros on the professional services team. And the B2B content I've created on behalf of clients here at Ceros has been some of my favorite work to date. Prior to joining Ceros, I launched an award-winning branded content studio at a media startup, where I worked with a lot of brands who had their eyes on the C-suite. I was also a digital journalist for CNN, where I used many of the storytelling techniques found in journalism to help brands tell more compelling stories. So here's a table of contents for today. We'll also, as Caroline mentioned, be sending this presentation out afterwards, so you can easily refer back to anything of interest, and we'll be sending the recording as well. So we're going to start by taking a look at some of the B2B trends to come out of the last year. Then we'll explore some approaches to B2B that you might not have thought of. And next, I'm going to take you through a few of my favorite examples that some of our clients have been making in the B2B space using Ceros. Finally, in these last three sections, I'm going to recommend a framework for how you can elevate your own content, including some great tips on how to run a successful brainstorm with your team. I will also have some great resources that you can use to set your content and design teams up for success. Those come in at the very end. So I'm hoping that's a good bribe to keep you listening for the rest of the half hour. So let's start by taking a look at what's trending in the B2B space. Now, I'm sure many of you on this call have created your own white papers about what COVID has meant in your industry and what changes it has ushered in. Now, before the pandemic, content was already becoming more personal, less formal. Now, of course, now that we spend pretty much every day looking into each other's living rooms, that's doubly true. So B2B content is becoming more ... human. Buyers value human interaction more than ever. They value it more than the product or service itself, according to a recent Salesforce report. Now, it's probably not surprising to see that this is true in the B2C space. So here it shows that 79% of consumers believe that experience trumps the product itself. But look, B2B buyers are even more likely to feel that way. So I found that really interesting. Next, it's more personal. Business buyers want a company to demonstrate that they understand their needs. 84% of business buyers have said that, and 66% of buyers want sales reps to tell them solutions, not simply list products. But is that what sales reps are doing? Let's take a look. Oh, this should say reality over here. Oh, expectations. There we go. Don't know what that happened. So this is what people expect, and this is what's really the case. So according to Salesforce, no, sales reps aren't doing that. A little over half of buyers think that sales reps haven't put in the effort to understand their business, and nearly 2/3 feel they're being offered products when what they really want is solutions. User-generated. So are you starting to sense a theme? B2B is becoming more people-focused. Marketers recognize that their users trust people over products. They trust their customers and even trust their employees. Yet less than half have a team dedicated to unearthing that content. So I think there's really an opportunity there. And a little later, I'm going to show some lovely examples of customer stories built in Ceros. Conversational. Let's look at this. Let's look at this list of how buyers are communicating with brands. So it's probably not a big surprise. Email, social media, chat. But think about it. Those channels are innately conversational. They're chatty. Your customers have grown accustomed to a chatty, informal tone, and they respond to it. So it's a good idea to try to emulate that when creating content for them. Now, educational content is a growing trend. Buyers are more likely to renew when they feel like their vendor is more than a supplier, when they're also a subject matter expert and a trusted advisor. Educational content helps set you up as that person. And I will also be showing some great examples of clients that do just that. And this is interesting. It's a finding from a Tint report that was looking ahead at how brands plan to connect with customers this year. So I think the main takeaway from this slide is that that virtual isn't going anywhere. It's worth thinking of ways to invigorate virtual and hybrid events. That's what the slide basically tells me. So what does this mean in terms of how you should be thinking of your content in the year ahead? For starters, start thinking about solution-based experiences. Show your user that you understand their pain points and that you've thought about solutions to help address them. It's often a more effective way to get your customers to relate to a product, or service than simply listing off features. Account-based marketing. This is becoming an insanely popular way of scaling outreach to clients, basically targeting a client by vertical. I'll share an example shortly of a client that uses Ceros to create presentations that feel custom to their business, but are basically templates. Personalized content hubs. Ceros lets you organize your educational materials by customer interest. So one of my favorite Ceros pieces is a quiz that takes users to a personalized hub. Users love it because it feels tailored to their interests. Customer and employee content creators. So get a happy customer to share their story on your behalf. This can be nice for distribution because customers are often happy to share these types of stories on their own social channels. And also, people trust people. Chatty content. Jargon makes companies look like companies. If you speak to your customers as if they're people, they tend to respond positively, and it helps them feel seen and helps them feel safe. Client onboarding and education. Customers appreciate a bit of handholding. They like being told what they can expect from you as their new partner. So maybe try creating an onboarding experience to welcome them into your company. And complimentary event collateral. As we have discussed, virtual events are clearly not going anywhere. So let's think of ways to make them stand out. You could create gamified content that you present during a virtual event. Maybe have participants play a game of jargon bingo. Our CEO actually did that with a presentation internally, and it was a lot of fun. Or send them an invite that has a virtual Easter egg hunt. Or even very simply, just send them a really streamlined recap. So here are a few examples of B2B content done well in Ceros, just to get you a bit excited about your own capabilities. So GumGum wanted a memorable way to explain its AI-powered ad solutions. So a lot of their customers are adapting to a world in which cookies are being phased out. So GumGum used a relatable pain point as an entry point. Then they created this kind of fun ski slope experience to stand out, and they used relatable language. And it's not what you'd expect from a company like theirs, but it's memorable and therefore effective. So this is a piece actually created for Square. It's a fantastic example of a piece of content that sets up the brand Square, which maybe you know it's a payment portal, as a trusted advisor through the use of education. It's a piece they created in partnership with Forbes, basically using successful small business owners to guide Square customers through a variety of challenges, from choosing a shipping partner to organizing curbside pickup if you're a restaurant. Now, these aren't services that Square offers, but they know how important those issues are to their customers. So this is a piece we made in partnership with Getty to promote more inclusive photo collections for brands and publications to use. The goal was really to drive home the business impact of telling a more authentically inclusive story. The language is powerful, partly because it's so plain. Now, this was born out of a team collaboration, design, content, and UX, got into a Zoom room, and we sketched out some ideas of how we could bring this idea to life. In a little while, I'm also going to walk you through some methods of how to set up a brainstorm to get powerful creative results for your own company. Now, I love this example from MasterCard. It's a simple idea done well. It gives users the option to choose a MasterCard customer, a small business owner, and demonstrates how MasterCard helps them conduct business. They still highlight their services, but they do it in the context of the customer story. And it's a story that is also relatable to the audience they're trying to reach because it's centered around common pain points. So this is another example from United of customer storytelling done well. Now, it's admittedly a bit of an older example, but the format proved really successful for United. So it's basically a digital newsletter that highlights times that United staff went above and beyond. It focuses on the humans behind the business. It's humans serving humans. That's the message that they're trying to go for, and it makes you look at United more favorably as a brand that cares about your needs. Now, earlier I mentioned client onboarding, and I wanted to show you a couple of examples of brands that have done this for their customers. The first is ShareWorks, which took a more creative approach to telling clients what they could expect once they signed up with ShareWorks. It's cute, it's memorable, and it's easy to navigate, which is also key. Now, this Ceros example is a little bit meatier, more straightforward. We offer a lot of services and a lot of educational content, which is hopefully being evidenced by this webinar. And we want to set clients up for success, and we want to do it early. So we have a comprehensive onboarding experience that helps clients understand all the ways that they can work with us and use our platform. We invest a lot in education because we want our customers to really love us. And I mean, really, what's not to love? We think we have a great product and we want you to get the most out of it. That's what we hope our onboarding experience conveys to our client. That's the messaging. Last one, I wanted to give you a strong example of a brand using Ceros for account-based marketing. Daily Pay created a template that they've tweaked slightly depending on what industry they're courting. So a lot of the meat is the same, but they've tweaked the video and imagery, and they're using stats that speak directly, in this case, to the beverage industry. The stats address a pain point for that industry. They demonstrate a knowledge of the industry, and in that way, they set the stage immediately for being a good, empathetic partner. Okay, so now on to the good stuff. How should you approach marketing to a B2B audience? So I've broken it down. First, it sounds simple, but start by articulating what it is you want to achieve. Or if you're creating on behalf of a brand, find out what they want to achieve. What is the one thing a buyer should walk away knowing about this brand? What does the brand want the customer to do next? That is the framework, and the answer to those questions should guide you where you go from here. Next, the ultimate customer, the end user, should really be the one leading your content. Get into their head. Imagine what troubles them. What solutions are they looking for? What solutions are they desperate for? What are their pain points? What are they thinking about? Why are they even thinking about engaging with a brand? So create content that speaks to them. It's not about creating something to show off a list of products or services or cool features. If a potential customer doesn't understand how those features will make their work life easier, it won't mean anything to them. Story. A lot's been said about finding the story in your content. Many experts teach workshops on that very topic. But what does that mean exactly? Story basically amounts to two things. There's a change or transformation. For example, a change could be customers have changed their spending patterns. Have you changed X, Y, and Z to keep up with them? The second element to story is suspense, a curiosity gap. To get users interested, leave something out with the promise that you'll fill in the gaps if they keep reading or if they reach out to a sales rep. It's okay not to tell them everything. It's preferable not to tell them everything. You want them to be hungry for more. And Well, to emphasize that point is a GIF of Winnie the Pooh, clearly hungry for more. Next, brainstorm. Get your best thinkers in one Zoom room and literally sketch out some ideas. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like really shortly. Stay tuned. And finally, say it plainly. And by the way, that's a GIF of what I'm assuming is a plain bagel. Maybe a plain talking bagel, it's anyone's guess. But a good rule of thumb is imagine you're telling a friend about your product. How would you describe its benefits? So use that same tone when you're writing about the product. At Ceros, we've worked with thousands of brands, and the professional services team has created hundreds of experiences on their behalf. So I wanted to give you a peek behind the curtain, if you will, on how we approach B2B content to make it more interesting and more engaging for the end user, who, again, is not you or the organization, it's your customers. So here's a piece of product marketing. A client was using a spreadsheet to send to potential customers to list out their capabilities. They felt their customers assumed that they had a limited use cases, and that their customers weren't aware of the number of departments that the software touched. The company in question was an AI platform for use in hospitals. So here's the before and after. There's that spreadsheet, and here's what we ended up creating. So when the team on the project got together, we said, why not build a virtual hospital to show their customers exactly how far-reaching their capabilities are? So that's what we've done. We've created this virtual hospital with all the different departments, and you can click on the department, and it tells you what services they offer to make the people who work in that department's lives easier. Next up, a piece of customer education aimed at making buyers feel they're making a sustainable purchasing decision. So the customer here sells disposable mop pads and other cleaning products to organizations. And they had a comprehensive study with lots of dense stats that demonstrated to the people in charge of procurement that they are making a more sustainable choice, and that the issue of sustainability is actually pretty complex. And that basically in all the metrics where it mattered, disposable mop pads are actually a more environmentally friendly choice than reusable mop pads. So when we thought about what the client was trying to accomplish, they wanted their customers to rethink their assumptions about sustainability. So we leaned into this idea, and by inviting users to test their eco knowledge with a quiz. So here's the very dense material that they sent us, these very dry stats. And what we did is we created this kind of fun, conversational quiz, and I'm going to wait till it's this video loops back to the beginning. I think that the headline in particular really emphasizes the language that we used. So basically, we wanted to use a really conversational tone to kind of make that dense material and that dense content seem more accessible. So in case you didn't miss it, the headline was something along the lines of your mop pads should clean footprints, not leave them. All right, it's sort of a favorite of mine. So here is an example of a client that came to us to create a product demo. So they have an AI dashboard that makes opticians' jobs easier. They originally presented us with a lengthy PowerPoint of their demo, which I watched. But most of the copywriting and concepting came out of conversations that we had with the client, and getting them to describe the pain points facing their customers, opticians, and the solutions they offer in their own words. So here was that. I'm just going to actually reload that page so that you can sort of see the video from the beginning. So basically listing a few key ROI metrics up front, just the things that really speak to the staff. Here's how much return on investment you're going to get, and then the pain points written first person, things to make it really relatable. Someone clicks on it, and then you get that solution, and the solution relates directly to that pain point. So this ended up being really an insanely effective piece of content for them. It caused them to totally rethink how they created product pages. we felt that, if you can see that the demo here is pretty dry and that the pain points were going to be a better entryway for their customers. So I've talked a bit about brainstorming, and I wanted to take a moment to discuss how we set up brainstorms at Ceros to maximize creativity, and to also ensure that we are making content that connects with the end user. To do that, I thought I'd demonstrate how our professional services team might tackle a fictional client. Today's fictional client is HRNet. They are, again, a fictional software for HR professionals, and their goal is for buyers to understand that they can help with employee retention. So to better understand their customer, these are some of the questions we would ask, and we encourage you to ask them as well, to your team, to your client, whenever you're tackling a new project. What problems are your customers looking to solve for? What's keeping them awake at night? What's your goal? What do you want your customer to do next? Why is your customer choosing you over your competitors? And in one sentence, what do you want your customer to know about you? Next, gather your troops. Who at your company regularly has great ideas? Who has a design background? Who's got an innate sense of logistics? Get a multidisciplinary team in the room together. So a sample war room, if you will, can be a designer, a copywriter, a UX designer, a producer or someone who understands timelines, and a developer who might understand the feasibility of some of these ideas. You might have less people. We do a lot of brainstorms with just these three, the designer, copy, and UX, and the developer only comes in if we have a more complex idea. It can vary, but definitely get a team that has a different perspective to bring to the table. Now let's brainstorm. So here's a snapshot of what it looks like when we brainstorm at Ceros. Here you have myself representing content, aka the writer, my colleague Hannah, who's our senior UX designer, and Renee, our art director. We each bring a different perspective to the table, and we're using InVision freehand. I have a link at the end of this presentation to sketch out some ideas. So the timer's been set for 10 minutes, and we're drawing as many ideas as quickly as possible. Then we each present our ideas, and then we vote. So we have a system where we each get 3 votes. You can vote on your own idea, you can vote on your colleague's idea. There's going to be so many ideas coming out of every one of you that it's not like everyone's only going to have votes on their own. And usually there is a clear winner or a couple of clear winners, and sketching really helps you think less textually and more visually. So I really encourage it. Oops. Sorry. There we go. So at this point, I write a light copy outline, and I write the outline to fit the concept. So, we've chosen a concept, and it makes it a lot easier to do the writing when you kind of have a sense of, where there's going to be pop-ups, where there's going to be a carousel. So instead of having a copy deck and making design scramble to try and figure out how all the pieces fit, and to kind of retroactively create a story, you've written a concept to fit the design that you and your team members have already developed together. And maybe you need to get buy-in with your ideas, maybe from a director on your team or from a client or a separate partner. So sometimes this is what we do with clients. You can create an interactive sketch to help the other party understand what you're getting at. So, this is just, it helps other people kind of get, understand your vision. And this, I also have a link to this particular template at the end. You can import this concepting template directly into your account if you like, as well. That link will be at the end of the webinar. So what might that concept look like? Let's say HRNet gave you a dated PDF listing their services. So we thought, okay, let's take a recruiter or an employee, through an employee journey. Let's start at onboarding up here, and we can end with maybe when someone's leaving the company and you want them to be an advocate and all the ways that HRNet sets you up to do that. So maybe click up, have a light pop-up that sort of describes the services that HRNet offers at that point in the journey. Just an example of how you can innovate even in the B2B space. So we're nearing the end here. As a parting gift, I wanted to offer you some resources that can help your B2B content stand out. So what do we have here? Here we have that Envision brainstorming template that I discussed that we use in Ceros. It's really a game changer. If you click on this, it will take you directly to that and you can play around with it yourself. I absolutely encourage you to experiment with it. I've also included the creative brief that we give our clients when working on a project. It has some really insightful questions to help kind of give you just a little bit of clarity on what it is you're trying to achieve, what type of tone you're going for on any piece of given piece of content, and just really helps focus you and your team. And it's a great thing to sort of share team-wide so that everyone's on the same page. Then I have that concepting template that I demonstrated earlier. So here's just the template if you want to take a peek at it. And if you want to import it directly into your account, you can do so by clicking here. I know that was a lot. Thank you so much for staying with me. And if there are any questions, please feel free to write your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. So let me take a look. Question, our content is pretty technical. How do we make it splashy in Ceros if it feels pretty dry? That's a great question. So, you know, I think, again, you know, I would say it's always important to think about your user, you know, so even technical content, you know, start with, you know, who are you making this for, and what is the issue that's going to be most important to them. So, you know, and then I think try speaking it plainly to them, you know, just practice that. And that's one way to kind of start to make, you know, translate dry content into something relatable and approachable. I'd encourage to, you know, I think sometimes with dry content, there can be an extra, you know, people tend to think that they have to include more because they need more content to explain the, you know, slightly drier content that's a little bit harder to grasp. And, you know, actually the opposite is true. So, you know, the less information that you offer someone, and the more kind of curated and mindful you are with the information you put forward, the easier it is for them to absorb that information. So I would say, you know, take a step back, take a bit more of a bird's eye view. You know, you don't have to include, you know, every kind of step of a process. You don't have to include every graph. You don't have to, you know, really get in the weeds. You know, take a step above and think about, you know, what products and features are important to the user, and you know, what are they gonna, you know, what's going to relate to them, and what's going to be a value of these things that we have. So be mindful, cherry pick, and be relatable. I say that's the start. And sketch. You know, I think that you know, getting some people together and just sort of exercising that part of your brain, you'd be amazed at some of the things that you come up with. Let's see. Can you show the hospital example one more time? Yes. Let me. Sorry. Let me just stop sharing and then I will reshare. So. I'm going to pull it up a little bit bigger. There you go. So yeah, it's just a really lovely clickable scene. And yeah, it just gives, you know, this is, it's a really nice approach. More clients are doing things like this. And I think it's a really nice way to demonstrate, you know, capabilities. Can you tell us again how you can get to the planning template that we're just shown? Is that the, sorry, do you mean which planning template? Is it at the very end? I have all of, you know, all of those templates. So, you know, here's that. If it's the concepting template, I have that here. And, you know, if you have a client, you can sort of show them how you can, you know, put their branding, you know, how you understand their branding. And if you're using templates, it's a nice way to sort of say, hey, we're going to reskin this template with your branding. Or if you just want to go to this concepting section, you know, you can sort of have a tab with the different concepts here. And then you can always just put in a sketch, and you can go to Ceros Inspire and do some video grabs. You know, we won't come after you, and you can kind of embed those if you want to give people a little bit of an example of how something could look. So yeah, if you want to go to the end of the experience, you there's that, and then if you click on this one at the bottom, it will import directly into your account. When we are creating content for our clients that is strictly boasting about their services, businesses, or their personal accomplishments, would you push them to include stats that we can visualize to make it engaging, or focus more so on interactive text? How would you approach this? Yes, I would definitely, I would encourage them to focus on the stats that kind of sell the product, so be mindful. I would, I'd say maybe like think about the 3 to 4 stats that really demonstrate the value add, the value proposition. So whether that's, ROI, or whether it's, X% of people that use this product in some capacity, makes their lives easier for this reason, focus in on those. I am going to quickly share another example of, sorry, I want to make sure I am, that I think I shared earlier that does a really nice job of this. So here's that optician's dashboard. So here, numbers like this, this is a nice way to do it. And it's just sort of, you have it spelled out really clearly. You have, this is what you get. More yearly revenue, there's the number. More customer return, there's the number, et cetera. So that's a really nice way to do it. And, in terms of interactive text, I wouldn't make text interactive just for the sake of it. I'd be very mindful of how you approach everything from animations to your copy. I think that, what I would do in that situation is, try and find, if they just want to boast about their products, I mean, you can explain to them that, and I find clients often very receptive if you set yourself up as the product, the subject matter expert on selling to their customers and on copy. Try and get a sense of what are their customers going to them for, and can we, you can still boast about all their services and whatnot, but can we frame it in the context of what's actually important to their customer? So maybe just listing the services is not going to necessarily mean anything to the end user. So what are they dealing with, and which ones can we kind of match make to the issues that they care about, and to their pain points, and to the solutions they're trying to solve for. All right. And let's see if there's anything else in the chat. I think, what are your best examples of client testimonials? Let's see, let me, you know what, I'm going to do a little digging and send some after this, because I don't have any at my fingertips, but we definitely do have some really nice examples. We have some really, kind of pretty pull quotes that, maybe carousel pull quotes that you can use as well. Again, I think it's always good to be minimalist with your approach, no matter what. So I will find some really kind of, attractive minimalist approaches to client testimonials, for sure. And how long do your brainstorms normally take? That was another one. So that's a great question. Basically, we often we'll set a timer for about 10 minutes and do a brainstorm for 10 minutes. We might have a 5 minutes set up beforehand to say, okay, this is the issue. These are the things that we're trying to, the messaging that we're trying to work in. Do a brainstorm for about 10 minutes, stop the clock, and just draw as quickly as you can. 5 minutes for presenting, maybe a few minutes for voting and for discussing. So I'd say overall, 15 minutes to half an hour. It's not a big, long process. So very good. Okay, I think that looks like that might be everything. So any other ideas, please type them in, or you can unmute yourself, or you can also follow up with Caroline. I'm happy to send any follow-up answers as well.
Great. Thanks, Daisy. That was amazing. Thank you all for sending in questions. We love the engagement. So thank you all so much for joining. Like Daisy said, feel free to reach out if there's any other questions that come up that you'd like us to include in the follow-up resources. But be on the lookout for that follow-up email probably some point today with all of those resources that Daisy mentioned. So thank you all so much, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks, Daisy.
Thank you.